first time ever.
Hear you loud and clearly.
And it was going place.
That stuff's great.
But the game is not a roguelike.
Boomer shooter.
Bang.
Hello, this is John St. John, and you're listening to KEEP in the Keep, bringing you all the hits from the finest in the world of gaming and entertainment. Now sit back and relax as the drowned god Cthulhu lulls your mind with the tastiest talk in town.
Welcome to another chapter of In the Keep podcast. I'm your very own prophet of the drowned god, the Motherlode. The Keep is a collective of gaming enthusiasts compelled by the drowned god Cthulhu to frag and jib one another into oblivion for all eternity. Welcome to the Falco Show. We have our guest today, Mr. Falco Crimson. How are you? So, I think, well, I did your podcast, but this is your first time on In the Keep. So, welcome, Chris. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. My name is Christopher Guerrero. Been on the project since, I guess, since day one, right? I've had the pleasure of dipping into, some of the writing and some of the casting and playing around with different enemies and different characters in the story. So it's been such a blast. It's a real privilege to be able to be part of such like just a video game. I mean, that's like every kid's dream, man. You're working on a video game,
It's really cool how you and I just crossed paths at exactly the right time in life. Like we're both just like insane, crazy people working towards these like goals that all of our friends don't quite understand, but we just found a way to like meld our two sort of like gifts together in many ways.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of funny because I remember the first day I met you, you were kind of like the most antisocial person like in the party. And all I heard was like all of these things about you, all these great, terrific things about you. But I just see this little guy like in like a Danzig shirt.
Oh, yeah, because we met at the Halloween party. I forgot about that.
No words. I just saw you. I
totally forgot about that.
Like,
oh my god!
I hate this place.
I wish I had a picture of that of that costume I was wearing. I did
costume? It. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
So I was already dressed up in that with like the makeup and everything, and I was streaming a DreadX collection game. I think it was the Blues Clues one, for Halloween, dressed up in costume. And then I got off of that, went to that party, and then that's when we met. And we got hammered, dude. You and I were like walking down the street with wine glasses at one point, trying to get away from Jake.
Oh yeah, immediately. Like once you started talking about things that you cared about, it was immediately into like a very enthusiastic, a very much more happier version of yourself. You really opened up once you wanted to talk about the things you liked.
I wouldn't say that it's like the things that I like necessarily. I know that I come across in groups oftentimes like the sort of antisocial individual, but I think I'm just like a very introverted. Like most of the dialogue that happens with me is inside my own head. Like I've usually gone through many iterations of what I want to say before I ever speak to anyone. So, when you see me at these like fucking, somebody's house party, I guess I would, I know how I come across. Like I know how I come across like at a bar, for instance, if someone's meeting me for the first time, I can seem really stoic, but me, I'm pretty conversational.
Oh yeah, 1,000% you are.
Yeah, I don't know. But maybe I should work on that. Maybe I put people off on first impressions.
I wouldn't say put people off. It's just kind of like it just looked like you didn't want to be there. It's just looked I got to go to another fucking party with my wife. That's what it looked like.
Oh well, I mean, that's that's just part of life at a certain point. But no, I had a good time. It was great. I remember the evening fondly because I recall how like Jake was like really kind of tore up and he just kept like we were trying to talk, and he just kept following us around like a baby. Like we'd just like go outside and just like, here he comes. What are you guys talking
Yeah,
about? It was so funny. That was so funny, man.
He's really hard to work around when he's drinking. But
hey. He's a fun guy. But yeah, no. So I guess we'll have to dive into kind of your background a bit. So you were born in San Antonio?
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Southern Texas.
So you like San Antonio area, or did you grow up in like San Antonio proper?
No, in San Antonio and around Texas, really.
So when you went to basic training, you just
Especially-
drove to basic training, basically.
Yeah, it was like a 30-minute drive.
Yeah, it was like a 3-plane flight for me. Yeah, it was a long
Fuck all
day.
that noise.
I had to take a bus to Montgomery, where Gunter is. You know what I'm talking about? Where the officer school is. That's where MEPS is for Alabama. And then you do the MEPS thing. They put you in a hotel for the night. You wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and then you're on a plane all day long, and then arriving at Lackland. Like you get off of the airport in Dallas, and then they would just put you on a bus and take you onto Lackland, and then that's when it's like, you got 3 seconds to get off my pissing bus. Like that moment.
Yeah, I was the first dude
Yeah.
off that bus because nobody else wanted to get off.
Damn, son.
Everybody was sitting down. I was like, dude, I'm too fucking old for this. Like, I got
Yeah, I'm not. It was that's such a weird part of life. But anyway, back to old Chris Guerrero. So you, if I recall correctly, you grew the interest in acting in high school from was it the Edgar Allan Poe thing, right? You did like a monologue and kind of realized you had some talent.
Yeah, the story was called "I Might Be Edgar Allan Poe," and
Yeah.
I realized I wasn't a great debater. Debaters had to be speaking facts at like 10 times the normal speed of your regular speaking. It was ridiculous. You had to spit out an enormous amount of facts all the time, and it just didn't feel genuine. It didn't feel real to me. I was like, I don't really dig it. So my teacher came up to me and he was like, you know, man, just take a shot at this story. Try storytelling. And I was like, okay. And immediately, I really enjoyed that story because I had always been bullied and kind of an outcast for having PTSD. I would get bullied by kids in school, and they would call me like a crybaby or all kinds of names because PTSD when it occurred, sometimes I couldn't control it. I'd have to like run out of the classroom and then let it happen. The PTSD was more about an incident that happened when I was 13. My father was killed in an accident, and I was there with my brother. But the reason it ties into the story of Edgar Allan Poe, I Might Be Edgar Allan Poe, is because I read the story in front of the class, and the first time I read it, I didn't try anything. I wasn't faking anything. I was just connecting with this person in the story that had PTSD. And he keeps talking about how, these doctors think that he's crazy, that he's out of his mind, that he's not well. And it's all because he keeps thinking and keeps having these traumatic episodes of thinking of throwing a girl off a burning building into a trampoline, and he misses the trampoline, and she splatters all over the pavement. So when I read that in front of the class, automatically I had such a huge connection to the literature, and I had no idea what was going on. And the class was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" It sounded like it happened to you. Like, that was intense. That was really good. And I was like, I came out of it, and it was almost like I came out of like a fog, man. I was like, what the fuck just happened to me? I just connected with paper. It was just so strange. It had never happened before. So it was kind of like an epiphany, like an aha moment. And they were like, okay, Chris, you got to take that to a competition. So I started doing this story and a couple of other stories on stage, doing it in front of large audiences and in auditoriums, and just out of fucking nowhere, just got number one. People kept asking me like, dude, how long have you been acting? Dude, like, where's this story from? Who are you? Like, what's your name? And I told him, man, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just reading a story and connecting with the paper. Like, I'm not trying. I'm not here to make anybody like me. I truly feel what this character is feeling. I connect with it, and it just gave me the confidence to. It was that driving factor, that main source of fuel for me to express myself in a constructive way, to find a way to kind of mend the pain and figure out how to use it in a positive way.
Yeah, you're in general, and I'm sure that was very formative in why you are the way you are. But you're a very intense person, to put it mildly. Like you come on very strong, complete opposite personality type to me, I would say. But maybe that's why we gel so well. But yeah, like you just, I don't know, you have this air about you when you are trying to express yourself that's like everything's turned up to 11 compared to most of us walking the streets. But I imagine that sort of natural charisma is very helpful in, stage acting or really just delivering lines of any kind. And the physicality too, you bring a lot of that to the table as well, even though what you're doing for us right now is just a voice acting role. But more than that, but we'll get into what all you've managed to snake your little fingers around and steal from me. I'm just kidding. Yeah. If I had to describe Chris Guerrero in one word, I'd be like intense. Too much. That's 2 words there.
Oh yeah, sometimes I wonder if like some people do tell me, "Hey man, your energy gives me anxiety."
Yeah.
Like I'm so high energy sometimes, and I don't even notice it. It's like it's nothing that even comes to mind. I live life so instinctually. I don't even think about a damn thing. I just go with the flow, and I try to be in the moment as much as possible.
I'm kind of going through this period in my life where I'm sort of relearning how to do that, how to just like act out of spontaneity, because like the military really did just make me a very much a creature of habit. Like routine, it became extremely important and everything. And now I just have the freedom to be like, fuck it, it's Wednesday night, let's go to New Orleans, like that kind of shit. It's very different. But with that also comes it's a double-edged sword, because you have to hold yourself accountable for getting your work done. And that can be, I don't find it challenging, but I can definitely see how someone who isn't fueled by an inner motivation, like someone who needs outward reinforcement in order to be motivated, which that's like probably most of the population, I would imagine, would struggle to go through such a transition.
Yeah, I was talking to my brother about something similar the other day. I was mentioning it to him that, I want to say like 80% of my day, if not more, is always in the moment. I'm always not in my head. I'm just right here. I'm right here, and I don't even know what I'm going to say next most of the time.
Clearly.
And he had mentioned some people are just too scared, or some people are just too uncomfortable to be that free with themselves. They need that extra time to kind of accumulate what they're thinking, and it's almost in a very sensitive way that you want to approach life. Is like, okay, will I hurt this person's feelings? Will I affect the situation in such a different way that will make a different outcome that I didn't want? I don't give a fuck about any of that. I'm right here. I don't give a fuck. I'm right here, man. Hey, how you doing? I'm gonna go out there and hug you. I'm gonna go out there, say something stupid, say something, I don't know, something witty, and that's the whole point of it. In my opinion, that is the absolute most true version of yourself. And if you can accept that, life is just so much more interesting, and everything is so much faster and so much more, I don't know, just better. I love it. I love not being in my head. I fucking love it, man.
Oh, it's way better. That's like the cure to depression. Is like just stop doing the self-deprecating cycle in someone's head when they just can't stop obsessively thinking about a negative thought. I've been through that many times, and yeah, like there's a real art form to just. There's a real levity to just letting go, like taking your hands off the reins, or floating down the river of cognition, so to speak, instead of trying to fight the current. But that can be very challenging for a lot of people. You just have like this sort of gift. You should be proud of it.
It's not a gift. It was actually this. It's not natural.
Okay, so this
I
is
learned that
something
very early on.
Okay.
Yeah, after my father had died, and I'd watched him die. He died right in front of me. My brother was really torn apart physically. Like his arms were like broken open. I could see bones and blood splurting everywhere. It was like watching Saving Private Ryan or some shit. I saw black and white for a couple of hours. It was rough. I had a concussion that almost killed me, and so throughout school, as a young teenager, I was 13 at the time. 13 to 18, kids are brutal, man. Seeing a 14-year-old boy cry in the middle of class and freaking out, like, I got my head hit on the window. People don't know what that is, or they don't understand what PTSD is. They just think I'm fucking crazy, or I'm a pussy, or like he has daddy issues, all kinds of shit. And in the friends that I did make that understood and just kind of took a second to understand who I was, because I was so insanely depressed and hurt, it was confusing.
Well, not only the trauma of the incident itself, like the PTSD associated with that, and with losing a parent, and going through all of that crap. The fact that you had a terrible concussion, probably. I'm not a doctor. I have to always say that on the podcast when I start talking about this kind of stuff. But like that shit can really fuck your brain up. It can send you. It did to me when I've had a few pretty horrific concussions, but the one that was the worst when I was like, I was probably 19, 20. It was when I was wrestling, but it can just really change the wiring of your brain in a pretty negative way. And I feel like from the outside looking in, because you don't see the injury, there's no physical, visible injury there when it's your brain. It's difficult for people to be empathetic. Whereas, if you're like physically like maimed, people can see the scar. They can see the issue with you.
Yeah, I don't know. I may have been too young to really know if it had some sort of personality or some sort of chemical effect to change me. I was too young to really understand, but I do know that I started to develop this habit of being able to turn it on and off my instinct when I was probably around the age of like 19 or 20 when I found out what that was. I think the first time I ever realized what being in the moment was when I was on stage doing a competition play in high school, and I had no idea what it was or what I was doing, but I know it was something different. At some point, my teacher had told me we were in the top 8 in the state of Texas for this UIL play, and I was like one of the lead. I was the lead actor. I had the most lines, and I was kind of like the main character driving the story. And I remember one time she just told me, "Chris, you know your lines. Just be in the moment. The only thing you have to focus on is the person in front of you." And when she said that, I remember the first time it happened on stage, it was like the crowd didn't even exist anymore. Everything was just black, and the only thing I could see was just the person in front of me. And nothing was more clear in my mind than just the person in front of me, hearing them talk to me and just reading their behavior. And I remember that feeling just felt so right that I wanted to chase it for the rest of my life. It was the best fucking weird, strange, like it was like being in a fucking, like, I don't know, it was like waking up in the Matrix or some shit. Like, oh my God, I'm finally out of the Matrix. Like, this is what fucking life is. And that aha moment, I've been chasing that my whole life. But that's when I was about 17, 18, when I started to understand how to turn it on and off was when I found a teacher in Austin. Her name is Laurel Vouvray, and she is a magnificent Meisner teacher. And after 2 years of being in class and understanding how to use this tool of being able to turn it on and off, I'm telling you, man, it was like chasing that feeling of like waking up from the Matrix every single time. And it only got better once I started to put layers and layers and layers of acting on it. So, independent activities and reasons for being there and wants and uh, behaviors and impediments, accents, movement, everything just stirring in the pot with being in the moment. It was like, man, there's nothing else that just makes me drink. It feels like I've drank like 20 cups of coffee when I talk about it. I perk right up, man. It's my thing.
So, was there like a clear sort of career path for you leaving high school, doing what you wanted to do, or like how did you kind of end up where you're at now?
Well, I would say once high school ended, I realized I was a really bad student. I had no idea how to even apply to college. And all I knew is, damn, like I want to be an actor. So first thing I did was I started Googling how the fuck did these actors become actors, And what I realized after reading like 50 biographies of all of my favorite actors and watching so many movies and trying to figure out like what the real deal is, I wanted to understand like the very complicated processes of how acting even works. So on my own, I started to dig into the history and the backgrounds of like all these people, and it came down to what we know as the Stanislavski Technique. It was a gentleman from Russia that came over to the United States in the early 1900s, and he introduced the technique of modern acting as we know it. And from him, he kind of introduced three American acting coaches that were the founders of what we know as modern acting today. All of their techniques are what you'll find in most really structured acting classes.
All right, so before we go down this rabbit hole,
Sure.
can you describe the difference in acting pre and post Meisner? Or
Yeah,
like what you would
sure.
call this modern, like what does that mean when you say like the modern acting, like how has it changed since the early 1900s and
So
prior?
what really changed was the three founders of acting in America. They decided to drop or really focus on certain parts of the Stanislavski technique. So, for example, the most famous one that you're going to hear in the news all the time is the method acting, right? The one where like, oh my God, this guy's going to be the character. He's going to go around and live as a
Right.
homeless person, or
This is your
or he's
Daniel
going to go live
Day-Lewis
as a
kind of, yeah.
correct. And so Daniel Day-Lewis has repeatedly stated that that's very misunderstood about him. He's not necessarily a Lee Strasberg actor. He doesn't specifically follow that technique. He has his own technique that he's built up from years and years of
Yeah.
training and working in the Old Crown Vic in London. I would love to go see that theater, by the way. But anyway, yes, the Strasberg technique is very famous for making actors go out into the real world and try to live as that character for long periods of time and really convince yourself that you are this person or this thing. I have taken a Strasberg class before. I think that some people would not enjoy it if you aren't. You have to be really vulnerable in that class. You have to be vulnerable in all of them. But I remember one of the first days in a Strasberg class, they asked you to get up on a stage and there's only one light that's shining down on you, and they want you to announce your most traumatic, most horrible thing that has ever happened to you, and then they want you to use a monologue to channel that feeling that you had when you were, talking about your story into the class. They want you to announce it to the class. And I mean, man, you'll be in that class and you're like, holy shit, some people were raped. Some people were beaten. Some people were robbed at gunpoint. Some people were, sometimes it's not even that bad. Sometimes the worst thing that ever happened to somebody was their parents divorced and they were yelling at each other, or,
Some
their
people
dog got hit by a car.
are acting.
Yeah. But the Strasberg method is just a little different.
Okay.
In its own unique way, they focus on a lot more self is the best way to put it. The Strasberg technique is very self-oriented, very self-based. Everything is about you. What I really enjoyed about the Meisner technique and all the times I've had about 5 or 6 years of experience is that the Meisner technique is always about the other person. It is always about the other person. And that is one of the biggest factors in between those two techniques. So the Meisner technique, when you do repetition, the only thing that matters in that room is you having eye contact with the other actor and reading their behavior. And the behavior will lead the scene to wherever it needs to go. That is always the foundation of Meisner acting, is reading behavior. And once you master that concept and your independent activities and your reasons for being there and relationships, and the list goes on, then you have a scene. You have a real scene there. And good actors are able to walk into the room and change it, without hesitation. What did you want from this person? This time I want to make this person laugh. This time I want to make this person feel uncomfortable. This time I want to make this person like me. And so reading behavior, you can find out all of these patterns of what people do and how they are naturally, and to me, that's just the most interesting thing in the world. It's endless. The amount of different kinds of combinations you can find in people, it's endless. Everybody has such a different background in a story, and their impediments are different, and their reasons for doing things and their wants. It's like an infinite thing. It's like chasing something that can never be caught. I love it.
I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words. I'm always blown away when you talk about how intricate this is and how much education and like time spent that you've put into thinking about techniques and everything. But it seems like there's like more than one school of this, where it's like you're the kind of person who wants to like take everything apart, down to the element, and then start from there and work your way back towards your ultimate goal. Whereas some people at least seem like when they're acting, they're just like, they've put no thought into it. They're just doing it. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, some people
you have people who like never went to fucking school. Like they just like walk right out of wherever and like, hey kid, you got something. And then they become an actor.
Yeah, I guess it came down to just me really falling in love with something.
Yeah.
And that's the difference is, when you love something, you really do. And there's been nothing in my life that has ever come close to that feeling. And it must be a really deep-seated feeling in me, because I truly do love it. I would do anything for it. I would lie, cheat, and steal. I would break up with a girlfriend. I would sell my car. I'd do anything. I don't give a fuck, man. If you told me I could be like acting every single day for the next 2 years and all I had to do was just sell all of my personal belongings, take it and let me fucking live. Let me fucking live. I want to go and do Faust. I want to go and do Sam Shepard's True West. I want to go and do Tennessee Williams' The Streetcar Named Desire. Let me fucking learn, man. That's all I give a fuck about. I'll do a play in a different language and I'm going to fucking kill it. I'm going to fucking kill it, dude.
it's always so cool how like Julia, right? How she's an opera singer and she'll sing all these, like, she knows all of these operas that are like in French or German or Russian or some shit, and she doesn't speak a word of any of those languages. She just knows the opera by heart. I knew that like, the singer for the Scorpions, if I remember correctly, did not speak English, but had just simply memorized all of the words to their songs and kicked ass. So that'd be really interesting. I can't even imagine like having to, like, I guess you'd have to have some sort of translation or at least an idea of what the words mean in order to portray the emotion necessary to sell the scene. If it were actually in another language that you don't understand.
Yeah, there's a French play that my acting teacher actually introduced me to that I'm reading right now, and I'm getting ready for my university auditions in about 200-ish, 250 days about.
I remember
I am
250 days out.
Yeah,
counting them
something
down
like that. It's close.
Yeah.
I have them on my phone. But
so you're auditioning
but yeah, even
before you get out of the Air Force, if I remember correctly.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Hey,
Yeah,
dude.
like as soon as my contract is up, it's like a month later, and then I go into school. And there's nothing I'm more excited about in my whole life than this. I've been waiting 4 years. Well, by the end of it, I'll be waiting 4 years.
Yeah.
But that's the whole reason I joined, was to have this opportunity, man. I mean, what a fucking opportunity. We only have one life. One life. How crazy would it be to be in a fucking program like at Juilliard or USC or NYU, studying with the fucking people that have put more time into this than I have and have more respect for it, and can only make you better. It's only positive. It can only make you better, and the military's paying for it. You got to be fucking crazy not to go for your dreams, man. You got to be fucking crazy if you have dreams and you didn't want to go for it, you know?
I think it's really interesting how is sort of like hitting the reset button on life, I would say. Is like I just basically put life on pause for the duration of that 6 years and sort of accepted that things were going to suck, but like I came out on the other end so much better off than when I left or when I walked in, if that makes sense. Like I was in such a just dark place prior to joining, and I as difficult as it was and as hard as it was and as many crazy things went on that I can now kind of, some of them fond memories and some of them I'm happy they're behind me, but yeah, I came out way better. I'm not trying to ever, like, I'm not, definitely people listening, if you have any other option in life, don't fucking join the military. But I mean, and it seems like it's kind of a 50-50 shot, because for every person who comes out, if you remember Guy Meyer, or I guess I would be a pretty good example. There's the other person who I know who's just walked away with nothing, and that makes me sad. But yeah, I think I got a pretty sweet deal. Like I didn't really go anywhere, and I was able to have that safety cushion to start my business and build this whole thing up to what it is now, and it took me places. Plus, I met you and a lot of other really cool people. There's something about being up at 4 a.m. with somebody trapped in a fucking room, all wearing the same uniform, that just you can't replicate elsewhere.
Man, that's a fucking true statement.
Yeah. I mean, I have my best friends that have been my best friends since I was a little boy. But then I have like a few people from my time in the service that if you and I just didn't talk for 40 years and then one day we were both at like a squadron reunion or whatever, I'm sure it would be like, we went to bed and woke up the next day and we're still friends. Like we wouldn't even know that time had passed. And I feel that way about like John Malachi and about Jake and several other people, but yeah, but it's just like a different kind of bond that I tried to explain it to people, and if they've never gone through it, they just can't understand. It seems.
That is very true, though. I was always concerned about how I was going to be discipline wise when I came in, before I came in. But it is true, man. Once you realize like everybody's waking up at fucking midnight to go to work and then leaving at 8 a.m. or, working this 24/7 operation, whatever the fuck, like going through that together. And then on top of that, learning some really tough science is like, it's,
Oh yeah, we
where
should
else are you going to
clarify
get
that.
You know what I mean?
So for people listening, Chris and I were both weather forecasters. We were stationed at a hub for all of basically a control center. Not control. That actually makes it sound like we're engineering the weather. I don't mean that, but the squadron is in charge of forecasting the weather and putting out warnings and providing briefs to pilots across the entire western side of our continent and South America. And oftentimes in coordination with other squadrons like that, if one of if either us or one of them goes down, everyone else picks up the slack. So, if say there's an internet outage at a different squadron, we would continue to execute the mission, by dividing the work up amongst everyone who was not currently going through that process. So sometimes the workload could be nothing, sometimes it could be like, we ain't doing shit today, boys. And sometimes it could be like, oh my God, there's, tornadoes ravaging everything, and a volcano just went off, and also there's a hurricane, and oh shit, here comes snow. And you never know. And it's so wild to me. But isn't it incredible that within the span of a couple of years, you go from a fucking moron to in many cases, a consummate scientist.
A fucking moron. Dude, that's so
it's crazy.
True. Holy
you think about
shit,
it.
You
In
are
a matter
moron.
in a matter of like 8 months, that's what the length of the enlisted technical training for a weather forecaster is. You go from knowing virtually nothing about the weather outside of what you've seen on the news or Wikipedia or whatever the fuck, to being put in the hot seat and told like, hey, if you don't figure out how to put out a warning on time, millions of dollars in government assets will be destroyed and it'll be your fault. That's what we did, or that's what you still do. So it's pretty cool.
Good as fuck too.
It's
yeah, man. RP is my favorite fucking job in the service. I tell you that.
It's
right now.
resource
I would work
protection,
RP.
folks.
Yeah, in my opinion, I love a bad day on RP. I love a bad day with bad weather.
We got to
Fuck, I
clarify
love
for
that
people listening, Chris. Like, people don't know what the fuck that means. Like, so this is a position.
Resource protection, baby.
Yeah, but what does that mean to a? What did what would 22-year-old Chris think of the words resource protection? Like, would you know
I think
that means
at a gate with a gun?
Because I know that your next, when I ask you to clarify this, you'll be like, oh, it means you issue WWAs. And I'll be like, come on, man, help these people out. They don't know what you mean by that.
So resource protection is where you watch a bunch of different products like satellite imagery, or radar, or certain instruments that can measure the atmosphere, and you watch it and you monitor it, and you make sure that if there is any kind of moderate to severe weather going on, that you will issue it on time.
Issuing a watch, warning,
really
or advisory. Like a weather advisory for the folks out there. You got to understand, man. You're going to learn this really fast. Like
the rain, the thunderstorms, tornadoes, whatever the fuck, really.
Your vocabulary is different from normal people now. You just have all this like specialized knowledge and ways of condensing long sentences into acronyms that doesn't apply to anyone who doesn't do what you do anymore, which was, it's just difficult to adjust to in the real world. Like every time I'm around my family, they're like asking me about weather shit, and I'm like, unless you bring me a dry erase board, I mean, we're not going to get anywhere with this conversation, Mom. I mean, I can teach you how to do this, but it's going to take a minute, at least 8 months.
You know what's funny is like some people will be like, "Wow, that's it? Like that's all it is?" It's like, nah, bro. Let me break it down. Let me break it down to you. Yeah, what a crazy world we live in where there's like a 200 knot jet, right? At like the 200 millibar level, just smashing through air, mixing all of these different chemical compounds, and like
He's talking
it's
about the
driving
polar the jet
all of these
stream, folks.
yeah, and it's driving all of these cold fronts and warm fronts, causing all of these different kinds of weather patterns all across the entire earth that we live on. And there's hurricanes and there's tsunamis and tornadoes and fucking thunderstorms. And
There's
here we are at the bottom, just waiting for it to happen. But there's
there's
some guy on a
two
computer watching it. You know,
there's two secret like hacks to being a great weather forecaster. If someone asks you why something is happening, you can always say, and you'll never be wrong, you could just say differential heatings of the Earth's surface, and that is what causes all weather. Like in one sentence, in one phrase, really, the differential heating of the Earth's surface, like the way that the sun contacts the surface and heats it up differently across the Earth itself, is what causes and drives everything to do with our weather and our water cycle. Done. And then the other thing that you can always say, I'll never forget this phrase as long as I live, and I know you won't either, but unfocused lights of moderate intensity.
I got to be honest, I don't think I've heard that phrase before.
Really? Oh, you've never been an
Yeah,
observer. So that's another thing.
No.
You've never like taken an observation. So, oh God. All right, now I have to explain to you and the audience what I'm talking about. When you're observing the weather at night, so like every hour or so, or depending on what the weather's like, you go outside and you take measurements of everything, including the temperature, dew point, visibility, pressure, like barometric pressure, which we convert to altimeter for pilots, and you write it into what we call a METAR, which is basically just an observation report. It's like there's a specific code that it follows so that it's easily disseminated and keeps a low data profile for dissemination across the internet. And at night, if you're trying to measure visibility, let's say there's fog or haze or something like that, if you're trying to report what the visibility is, if you can see a light, and that light is, we're going to say, 7 or 8 statute miles away from your point of view where you're standing, and you can see the light, you can say that you have 7 miles of visibility, or 8, whatever the distance that light is away. But you can't do that with, like, it can't be a fucking high intensity laser beam or like a spotlight. It has to be an unfocused light of moderate intensity. So that meaning like a street light, or a window on a building where you can see someone has the lights on inside, as opposed to something that would cut through the fog. I can't believe you don't know that phrase. That's so wild. It's like
Nope, never heard
METAR
that.
101. Well, now I've just bored everyone with this story, including you.
No, honestly, I think a lot of people really like to hear weatherman shit. It's so. I remember prior military that I always thought the weather, deep inside me, I always thought that the weather was like kind of like a really spiritual kind of like, oh wow, it's raining today because of my thoughts on this, or it's really cold today because I thought about this, or God is trying to tell me something, right? And now that I'm a weather forecaster, it's like I just understand the science. It's like dude, it's gonna be fucking cold today. There's a cold front coming through. It's gonna be here in the next 3 hours. Moderate winds. I understand. Weather's different. What does keep me really interested in weather is that there's so many things that we still can't explain. There's a lot of reasons why we're not right, and there's so much theories about weather that keep you interested. You're like, man, it's like we truly do not understand everything, and it's because the scale is so huge, and there's just no way to take an X-ray
There
of
are
these
so
things
many
and see how they
unknown
work.
variables. Yeah, when it comes to, you could say like, well, okay, well, it's reasonable to think that there's moisture and there's lift and there's heat and all that kind of stuff, and like, okay, well, then there should be thunderstorms, but there may be some other factor that you just don't get reported in the data that you happen to look at that day that could make you completely wrong. And there's also, we use models to forecast this stuff. And anybody here who has ever, it doesn't matter the type of model, just any predictive model. In our case, weather, but that could be economic or climate related. There's lots of different models out there. But you're so dependent on it to be accurate, and if it's inaccurate and you don't know that it's inaccurate, you're inaccurate. Period. The whole job at this point, like in the 21st century, of a weather forecaster really is to just initialize and verify the model. Like if the model's a little off, you correct for it, then you know what the weather's going to be. If the model's dead on, then you don't do shit. You just say what it says, and that's about, at least in my experience, like 80% of the job.
I don't know. I try to verify and make sure that the model is accurate to the observed data as much as possible. I try to make sure that
Yeah.
I do my job right, because it's interesting, man. When you get it down to the fucking dime, you want to get that shit on time. You want to issue a 35 knot warning with 2 hours of lead time on it or something like that. But in my opinion, I love that about the job. I love trying to be accurate and trying to do a good job. I love it. I hated it at first, but once I understood what I was doing and how the tools work, it was like, man, like this is fucking fun, dude. This is fucking fun. I'm blasting fucking hip hop, old school 90s rap in the fucking in the ops floor, and everybody's enjoying my fucking James Brown, and here I am like pays the cost to be the boss, and I'm fucking sending out a severe 45 knot warning, digging into all the clues and hints of like what the atmosphere is telling me, what the observations and the models tell me. I fucking love it. It's a chase. And I would encourage people to work at the hub. I think it's fucking cool. The only thing that sucks, I would say, about working at the hub is like once you figure out what you're good at and what you like to do, it's hard to make it work out for you. The job will require you to do things you don't want to do. And I guess in a philosophical way, that is good. You need to be doing things you're uncomfortable doing. But I really do enjoy doing the hard science, it's almost like being competitive. It's almost like come on, man, try me. I got this. I can handle heavy snow. I can handle freezing precip or any of those really crazy weather events that need us. They truly need us. If you want to save billions of dollars in tax money, you call your weatherman. You make sure that the plane isn't going to fucking get destroyed. You make sure that people aren't going to die going across like Washington or Colorado where weather is fucking crazy,
So
They
you
need us,
never
and we're here and
you never got to do any forecasting for the Air Force Academy, right?
No, but I do see that they put like 70 knots in their TAF. It's just fucking crazy.
Yeah, the TAF being the coded forecast for those terminal aerodrome forecast. Yeah, it's like wild how much power I had as like a strapping young A1, airman first class in like on my first day in the job, and they just turned me loose. Like, here's the Air Force Academy, which is in Colorado Springs, is one of the worst imaginable places that you could ever dream of having an airfield, like parallel to the biggest mountain range on a continent, and windy and snowy and bizarre, crazy weather happens there. And it's such an intense job, because not only are there, cadets out there who are training to fly aircraft, literally like with little glider planes almost. There's also people doing, parachute practice, and there's just a shitload of people, like personnel there. You can't have 50 knots just knock over all of the cadets who are future officers of the Air Force. It would be insane. I remember many times putting out stuff and then it not happening, and them calling me and being pissed. Was like, well, we thought it was going to happen. They're like, well, it didn't. And you've had these cadets, taking shelter in their dorm or underneath the bus or some shit for 3 hours, man. I'm like, oh shit, my bad, bro. Sorry.
It's so hard to be able to forecast for some place you've never seen before,
Well, I have seen Colorado Springs, but yeah, I mean, I've never been to. I've forecasted for, you name it, everywhere in the world. It feels like South America, forecasted for the Middle East, for Russia. Well, not Russia, but like Western Europe, I would say, like from Russia over. I've done all of that. I've drawn charts for all of these places. I think the only continents that I never did anything for is Antarctica. Obviously, there's not a lot of interesting. There's not a lot of planes flying in and out of there, first of all, and then the other one being, I don't think I've ever done anything for Australia, but I have the Pacific Ocean. I've done that.
I did some charts, like some graphics charts for Australia, like South Korea, Japan.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Which,
so
can be difficult if you don't know what the fuck you're doing, but it was a good time. It was a good time.
Okay, so like, let's talk about, the thing that we actually are doing now that we're promoting here a little bit. I was a little disappointed when I was on your show. I mean, not even disappointed. It's actually a nice thing, but like, we spent, over 2 hours chatting, and like never got into video games, like really at all. We just like did not discuss that, which is nice. But this show is kind of about video games, so we do have to talk about Stellar Valkyrie.
Yeah, man.
I guess you said since day one, and really you technically have, because you auditioned for we're not going to name it because it hasn't been announced or anything, but you auditioned for another project that In the Keep was originally working on, and that's what I had asked you to audition for. And then production on that was put on like more or less like a permanent halt, and while we decided to then let's work on Stellar Valkyrie. And that the concept came from Scumhead, and Ubergawai was all in on it, and then we needed someone to play our main character. And that's when you kind of came into the picture. But I am curious, like, what was your initial sort of impression of indie games and doing this shit, the development and everything?
I would say that I had absolutely like zero knowledge of what I was getting into. All I know is that I've been in a booth before for voice acting, and a lot of times I would just be reading a script and they would give me direction and I would change. And I know that it required a lot of attention to detail on being free. So many people are worried about being weird or doing something strange with their voice where, oh, I'm embarrassed or whatever. I don't have that fucking filter, thank God. So that's what gives me the freedom to just be whoever the fuck I need to be.
Yeah.
And what I like about voice acting is that I can make my own cuts, There's a point where the creative freedom is really down to how many versions you want to put on the sample or on the take, and just playing around, just taking the time to figure out why this person is doing it this way and that way, and it's very much more a personal process. So it's interesting. I get to play around with the character Falco in a way that is very unique to me. I can play around and just be goofy and be this really funny character with like God knows how many voice lines of bird one-liners, or even the other characters, getting to write for Elkman or something like that. It's fun because the creative process is open to samples. I don't have to worry about um, being wrong necessarily. It's more about what kind of character can I bring to the table, and I have a large team to collaborate with and say, "Hey, man, this isn't right," or "Hey, man, this is right." You know, it's such a positive and such a constructive way of being creative, and it's an awesome opportunity.
Huh. It's it is really interesting because like, and I work on many different things, but like Stellar Valkyrie as a project uniquely, I think has just been extremely democratic in that sort of everything we do, like the entire team is invited to participate in the conversation, whether that be the writing or like just like, hey, we're all like, even, there's no reason necessarily why you have to be part of a playtest, except that it's like, we want your opinion. You're part of it. We're all in this together. And that's not to say that there isn't that in a lot of games, especially in smaller teams, but there becomes a point where, once you have 30, 40, 50, 100 people working on something, like they can't possibly all be communicating efficiently. And then you have different layers of, leadership or management involved at that point. But as long as you're below, I don't know. I think if you're below like 10 people, it's pretty easy to just kind of like let everyone have a say in the conversation. So for instance, like just in our Discord, you and I have been auditioning voice actresses for Cat for the last couple of days. You've been killing it, man. I don't understand how do you put so much work in a day? Because I know you're like a machine sometimes. But anyway,
Dude, when it comes to acting, it's not even work. It's just anything related to that subject is just heaven to me. I can't fucking wait to get to my computer and just start fucking typing away. I fucking love it.
I feel very similarly about making games just in general. Like I just absolutely I feel like I have this like bottomless barrel of energy because like you said, it's like it gets me so excited. When I start talking about something that I really believe in, it's like 20 cups of coffee. Actually 20 cups of coffee could not give you the same kind of like positivity and energy that working on something you're passionate about can, if that makes sense. But like, we're posting these and everyone in the entire Discord can see it. and we're all commenting like, I like this one, I like that one, I don't, and someone will bring up a different point than someone else, and we'll actually always like sit there and have a discussion about it. Like, no one's I'd say no one's voice goes unheard with Stellar Valkyrie.
Yeah, and it's so much fun to be able to see like the sound guy and the music guy and the graphic artist guy and the just anybody, come into those meetings. And a lot of times I think they really do have a valid input. It's so cool to have everybody's opinion.
Like,
it's only positive.
I'm always blown away by someone who can do shit that I can't do. Like the opportunity to work with someone like Ben, or with someone like with Tony on Call of Ragnar, or with Ubergawai or Scumhead, or Scumhead being Sam, he like they're so fucking talented, and what they do, like their work to me is like magic. I just like, I show up and I'm like, I think things ought to be a certain way or whatever, and then Ben will come back with this the most amazing, perfect sound effect for exactly what we needed. With just like the only instructions are he's given is like some stupid, like very lacking explanation of what either I or Ubergawai wants it to sound like, and all he has to go off is our dumb monkey talk automatopoeia, like, well, it needs to be like a good like or something like that, and he could just walk away and come back with the perfect thing every time.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with you. It's like you just you were so like hungry to do more to help out, because you were initially just going to be a voice actor, and then the next thing I know, it's like, shit, Chris has written half the script and is casting director. Like, you're gonna have like this stupid long credit list compared to the rest of us.
Oh yeah, anything related to acting, man. It's just it's not even a job. It's not a job to me. It is like just a full-on passion, and the passion has always been. It sucks, for people that don't know. I was talking to my brother about this. Is that I started to realize once I got a little older is that passion, man, it is such a what do they call it, Ty? They call it like a two-edged sword or something like that.
Yeah. Double-edged sword.
Yeah,
Either way.
it sucks. It sucks in some ways because, I've found that not a lot of people have a passion. A passion that just like they wake up in the morning and that's the first thing they think about. A passion is something that you are in love with, and there's nothing in this world that will get between you and your passion. And it's hard because I think today, some people will argue like you need to find your passion in your early 20s. Once you're 18, you need to find out what you want to do with your life.
That's so stupid.
I was very, very lucky, I think, in some ways, as finding out that I had a passion when I was about 17. It was a passion. I just, there's nothing else in this world that I have loved more and respected and have had interest in than acting specifically. And it's the history. It's the whole thing. It's the technique, the culture. And it sucks because there's going to be people that you meet anywhere in life, whether it be your job or your friends or your family, that don't know what that is. They have no clue what the fuck that is. A lot of people live their life just trying to survive, just trying to figure out, how am I going to provide for my family? How the fuck am I gonna, pay these bills? How the fuck am I going to have a career in my life? In some ways, it's a curse, and in some ways, it's a blessing. But I have a fucking passion, and I swear to God, I'm gonna be fucking acting on stage at 95 years old, having a heart attack, doing what the fuck I love, and I'm so lucky that I found it so early on. I really am. I'm so fucking lucky in that way because there's nothing else that makes me happier.
I'm so guilty of being the kind of person who just goes all the way in on what I want to do, so like the latest thing, the past 4 years or so, it's been very video game centric, but prior to that, it was, wrestling, it was music. When if you'd asked me when I was like 16, you said like, hey Ty, what do you want to do? How do you think you're going to die? And I would say like, I hope that I'm rocking out on stage with my fucking axe shredding and I'm headbanging so hard that my head just rolls off and some kid in the crowd picks it up and takes it up to the guitar player and gets it autographed, or, some crazy shit like that. I totally, completely resonate and understand your mindset. I just like, I didn't figure out what my direction was until I was, well into my 20s. There was no chance. Like what I was doing at 18 was like putting on tights and jumping off of the top rope on top of people and shit, trying to do crazy stunts and not getting paid a dime for it just because I was crazy.
And that's what passion does to people. And
Yeah.
I think for some people, passion is something that is negative. Some people's passions, it can harm them, and it can make them confused and wonder, like, what the fuck, like why do I like this thing? And for whatever reason, I can't let it go. I've lost relationships for this passion. I've lost money for this passion. I've lost careers for this passion. I've lost family time. Like holidays, I never gave a fuck about holidays. You tell me if I give a fuck about Christmas, you're talking to the wrong guy. You're talking to the wrong guy. Because I'll be on Christmas on the set, reading my fucking lines and figuring out what this character is about. I really don't give a fuck if I have to be there at Christmas giving presents to Sally. I don't give a fuck, man. I really don't. And it's really different. I don't know if a lot of people have that kind of mindset. I don't think they do, but this life is for a different kind of person, and I'm the guy. I'm the fucking guy. And I'm going to be doing it till I'm 95 years old. Like I said, I'm going to be doing Death of a Salesman on stage, 95 years old, having a heart attack. And I'm going to be in character.
You're going to be like 6 scotches
And
deep,
the audience
too.
is going to enjoy. The audience is going to enjoy a genuine performance. And that's all I've ever wanted to do with my whole fucking life, is just give a real, honest, genuine performance. And I'll be there.
So speaking of performances, you got to do some voices.
Which one?
Well, I don't know. Like you're a master of accents, but I mean, we could do some Falco stuff. We got to do some Falco stuff, but like anything that you like, I like your Joe Pesci a lot. I think you're really, really good at that.
Oh God, I haven't been practicing. Let me see. I hate to disappoint the audience out here. I guess for Falco specifically, let's think of. I got a bunch of one-liners in here. Let me see. Falco's pretty much me, just as the wackiest kind of like I don't give a fuck kind of character. Let's see. Falco. I mean, we have so many one-liners that it can't hurt to give the audience a couple of one-liners.
Start on like page 2. I think that's when the bird puns start, because the original stuff was, some of it was just like weird science crap, but like we literally have a document. I'm trying not to disappoint. I promised in the initial interview that I did with Zach Murphy, because he asked, like about the game, and I'm like, oh, there's going to be like 500 bird puns, and of course the headline, or whatever, like he wrote it in the article. He's like, he promises there'll be 500 bird puns, and I'm like, I don't even know 500 birds. I don't even know 50 birds. Like, but I think we've done a pretty good job. I don't know if you saw this earlier, but Major Arlene bought a book called it's called Effin' Birds, and it's just like this crazy bird trivia book. And I'm like, send me a fucking copy of that. Like, I need to do my research, bro. We got to deliver. We only got like 150 bird puns right now. Not to shoot ourselves in the foot.
Well, Falco is pretty much, he doesn't have an accent or anything. He's just so.
He's like you turned up to 11, which is saying a lot.
Right. He's just so excited to let you know that the Birdman's here.
Yeah. Well, originally, I think
this bird's got brains.
I told you that I wanted him to be like Uncle Joe. If Uncle Joey were a mercenary, that's kind of how I envision him. And I think you had never seen Full House at that point, that's fine. You don't need to watch Full House.
I have actually. I actually grew up watching Full House.
Okay, good.
I know 100% Full House.
Yeah.
Fun flies when you're doing time. I've got wings of steel.
I'm proud. I'm the
Bird
most.
is the word.
I'm the most proud of the girlfriend, the ex-girlfriend jokes, or like, I think that's the best writing that you and I have done so far.
Call me a chicken one more time. I love these things. I got your caca right here, pal. Oh, we got some one-liners for days, man. These video game folks, they don't know what they're getting into.
It's
I'm not your personal airliner. All right.
one
Go
thing
ahead.
that I think.
Go ahead. Kiss my tail feather. Go ahead.
We've got a pretty sizable document. I actually, now that I'm scrolling through it, I didn't realize how much we wrote. But I wanted to ask you something like about creativity, and I think that you'll probably vibe with me on this. So, do you have like a switch that you could just turn on and be creative, or because I feel like I have to just catch the wave. It's like surfing to me, and sometimes I miss the wave, but sometimes when I catch it, I'm so productive. I have to catch the creativity and if it comes at 4:00 in the morning or if it comes at 6 p.m., it doesn't matter. That's when I get most of my shit done. So like, for instance, I haven't written a single one of these one-liners in how long have we been developing this? Like, this document was made forever ago.
Probably.
I mean,
probably October of last year.
Yeah. You and I were like sitting in my office at the old house that I had, and we just wrote, I mean, good, how many lines is this? We wrote all of this in like a couple of days. And haven't touched it since.
Pages.
It's wild.
Yeah, and I think there's always room for more. Really, honestly, we really could make more.
We have to. We're
going to give the audience what they want.
We have to. There has to this has to be like stupid dad joke funny all the way through, or else we've failed. We can't afford to walk out there with less than our best.
We don't fail out here. That's not our goal. We don't fail out here. But yeah, we've been working on this for a long time, and I think for me as a creative process, I don't know what it is. I have like a competitive edge. As soon as somebody tells me, Chris, turn on the jets. We need the jets on. And I'm like, okay. You want the jets on? I'll give you the fucking jets. I got the jets right here for you. Right here. And all of a sudden, as soon as I get into it, as soon as I start typing away, as soon as I start talking into the microphone, I get this enthusiasm, this crazy just energy. And I'm just like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready for the challenge. And I'll do everything, man. I'll have like 10 tabs open of the things that I'm wondering about and thinking about and wanting to study. And I'll think about the character itself, and I'll close my eyes and I'll see the scene in my head and think like, oh, Cat is flying away. Bon voyage, Falco. And she, she's getting further and further away from the microphone, and she's flying away. That's the scene, We need the voice actress to be able to fly away and make Falco think like, damn, where did you go this time, Cat? I miss you, and the whole scene is truly things that come down to as ecstatic and wacky as they are. I mean, the truth is that these two characters, Falco and Cat, there's still some sort of really deep-rooted kind of romantic connection there, and we need to give that to the audience. And so me as a person that loves to dig into behaviors and wants and desires, there's a deep part of Falco that really needs her, right? And so we need the audience to be able to connect in that way, whether it be through voice or visuals or sounds, whatever it may be. at the end of the day, the game truly needs a soul. And I can't wait to give every bit of soul to that game. It's fun. It's exciting.
Yeah, it so like what I was kind of trying to illustrate there is that I don't have that just like on switch where it's like bam. So for instance, the other day I had been asked. I'm sort of writing, for a project that I can't talk about right now, but that's not the important detail here. And so I was given an assignment to like come up with ideas for, characters or whatever, or like groups, and so I say, okay, I will do that. I need you to just like give me some time to think about it, and then I'll get back to you soon. And I did nothing at all for like several days, maybe a week, where I just like made zero progress on it. And then I'm sitting in my living room one morning. It's me and my uncle and my mom, and we're all chatting. And then I just felt it. I felt the wave come up behind me. That creative, like just the energy that I needed from the universe. And I stood straight up and I said, I got to go. Walked straight to my desk, sat down, banged out the whole document in like maybe an hour. Perfectly proofread it, like did everything. Send it off. And then go sit back in the living room like, hey, how's everybody doing? And I was like, that was it. And I felt so good. But that's how I have to be. That is how my creativity comes. And usually it was odd to me at that moment that it happened while I was sitting with a group of other people, because usually I am the most creative when I'm alone and there's no one else talking to me, and I can just focus on the task at hand. Like when everyone else is asleep, my brain comes on full force. But then there's the other part of it that is like, so in brainstorming sessions, when if it's you and I and maybe like Scumhead or Uber or Nabe, and we're just blabbering out ideas through conversation, and it's like, oh shit, that's a great idea, and we write that down. And that's it. That's a great practice, I think, for me, for setting the kind of standard of like, okay, these are the things I need to be thinking about, but the creativity for me won't come until later, until I've had time to process it and just like, and catch one of those waves and run straight towards an assignment. I'm sorry, that was long-winded.
There was absolutely nothing long-winded about that. I think your point is valid, and there's so many great writers that talk about that. Like, man, they'll have like writer's block or some sort of creative block where, they're just sitting at their computer or waiting around for days and days, waiting for that like spark to just happen. And then all of a sudden it happens, and damn, there's like 60 pages on the table. Like, what the fuck just happened? And everybody's creative process is different.
Yeah. So did I ever tell you about the time that I wrote a book?
Maybe you did when you were like drunk off your ass one night. And you just told me about it, but I don't
so this was
much. Go for it.
It's not a piece of work that I'm particularly proud of or anything. I'm not gonna like try to sell it or tell anybody what it is. It doesn't matter. But I just woke up one day and I was reading, or I'd probably just been reading like some like George R.R. Martin, some like really, really good shit. And then I just got it in my head. It was like, I don't think I'll ever be a writer, and I still don't, well, at least not a novelist. I'm certainly in many ways already a writer, but you get what I'm saying. Like I was thinking like, I want to understand what it's like, even if it's just the tip of the iceberg, to write a novella, which is ultimately what I ended up writing. And so I just did it over the course of like several months. I would just kind of wait around, and then one day that creative wave would hit me, and I'd go straight to my office and I'd write several chapters, and then come back later when another creative wave hit me and proofread it all and then publish it. And I did like 4 volumes that added up to one novella. And I'm not proud of, like, I don't even say I'm not proud of it, but like, I don't think it's like a particularly good piece of writing or anything like that. But I am just proud that I was so motivated to do that I actually did it. And I don't know if you I don't know if you have anything analogous to that, but you strike me as the kind of person like where you'll just do shit for the sake of doing it. Like when I went to see you do, like you dragged me out to a stand-up comedy open mic, and so that you could do Shakespeare. Like that's the kind of person you are.
Yeah, right.
You know, and you're
Yeah,
performing
man,
in
and
front
I
of a group of people, a small group of people who are basically all stand-up comedians, and I'm just going to do King Henry VIII. I'm not a comedian, and then you just do it, and then there's no reaction from the audience, and you're like, "Thank you, everybody," and you walk away. I'm like, the amount of just
because I don't
confidence.
give a fuck.
Yeah, I know, but
I really don't. And the thing is that it's such a niche, for somebody to actually truly be interested into Shakespeare, for somebody to truly want to understand what this guy is saying from like the 1600s, the 1500s. It's so uncommon. People are sleeping in high school right now reading Henry VIII or whatever the fuck it is, Henry III. And I happen to just fucking fall in love with it, man. And I don't back away from it. I know who I am. That's me. I don't give a fuck. If you don't want to hear it, good luck, pal. That show was free. I don't give a fuck. You're going to hear some fucking Henry III right in front of you. You're going to hear some fucking Hotspur, Scene 3, Act 2. I don't give a fuck. You understand? That's the kind of guy I am. I really don't care. And it's the creative process. There's all kinds of different people in the creative process, right? There's you, there's me, there's Ben, there's fucking Scumhead, whatever the fuck you want to call in here.
it's so funny to me that his name is Scumhead. I mean, his name is Sam. I think everybody knows that, but like, he's just Scumhead, and everyone just like everyone else on the team. I naturally default to their name, right? Like I call you Chris. I mean, you're not like a gamer. You don't have like a handle, right? Usually, but
no.
Yeah, but like, Uber, I call him Michael when I talk to him. When I talk to Benjamin, we call him Ben, but we just call Scumhead. And no one ever questions it. It's so funny to me. Like it's so weird to me like when I get referred to as the Motherlode instead of as Ty Brannon, like it's so odd. Like in that magazine article I sent you earlier. I'm like that's not my name.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I still get thrown off of it sometimes because I have video game friends that literally call me my video game fucking name.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Gamer tag or whatever it is.
But it's normal within a
They've been
certain
calling
context.
me that for years, It's like
right.
Yeah.
It's within a certain context. It's completely normal. But when you're like, I don't know, it just feels so weird, like to have. I know that there are like a lot of people who I don't know who I am, and they know me as that name and not as my actual name. And I would imagine it's very similar for an actor who's played like a very big role, in something that a lot of people saw, and people don't necessarily know who the actor is, but they saw that performance and they identify you with that character. It's very strange. And I do
some shit like that.
Yeah. Like I wish the Motherlode was a performance, but it's just me. I'm so fascinated by acting. I just straight up can't be not myself. It's so difficult to like just.
It's not a natural process, man. It takes so much time and so much attention to detail and so much desire to want to understand these people and develop them. It takes a lot of time, and I'll tell you, man. One of the biggest motivations is seeing some of my friends in an acting class that I've known for years, just years. I've known them in the trenches, man. I'm not fucking around. I've known them in the trenches since day one, from year 1 to year 6, right? And I see these actors just spending, it has to be 1,000 hours, 1,000, if not more, just slaving away, reading these lines over and over again, waking up on their days off from work, fucking around as another person, and having the confidence to be British. You go out to fucking the movie theater and you're British. You're a fucking British guy.
I could
Right?
not fucking
And
believe
no
it
matter how
when
no
we
matter how
asked you to
bad you are,
when we asked you to
no
do
matter
a
how
British
bad you
accent,
are.
and then Tristan was
Yeah.
like, "That's pretty good." I was like, "What? No way! Like that is crazy." And you did with like 3
Yeah, and it's
different
from
types too. Like you were like different regions even. And he was like, "That sounds pretty good to me." And I was like, "No fucking way." Like that I don't understand.
and it's from
I mean,
years and years and years of experience and being able to understand that like it's embarrassing, you know. Somebody's going to call you out and somebody's going to be like, "Dude, you're not fucking British." And you're going to be like, "Yeah, I know. But I'm a fucking actor. That's what I am." And you got to keep going and trudging through all of the shame and all of the insecurities that you have and all of the things that make you feel uncomfortable. And after years and years of experience, you get good at it, man. Just like anything else in this world. And it's amazing what humans are truly capable of. You can be somebody else, and it's going to take time. But if that is your goal, to truly live in the moment as another person and break through the matrix, right? Break through like whatever kind of solidified mindset or idea of like what life is supposed to be like. If you can break through it, man, you can realize that there's so much more in this world than just whatever you are. There's and in a lot of ways acting is psychedelic, man. It's so crazy, it's so intense, it's such a life-changing experience that I wish that I could just share it with everybody without making them go through, years and years of training and years of dedication. I really truly honest to God wish I could just create a PowerPoint or a presentation where everybody could understand what it's like to just sit down and understand each other and dive into like the deep, philosophical and psychological parts of the human brain. And you don't even have to be human. You know, actors are playing fucking cats. Actors are playing birds. I'm playing a fucking bird man, right?
who,
Their actors are playing ants.
who's
They're
the
playing aliens. They're playing monsters. Actors are everything. They're
who's
ghosts. Who the fuck knows?
who's the gentleman who played Gollum in Lord of the Rings?
I don't know, but he fucking killed it, and he got paid lots of money because he's good at it.
But
And you
he
know
like
what?
you've
He
seen the
got paid
pictures where he has on
handsomely
like
because
the mocap suit and he's like crawling, like he's just like bending his body in all this weird contortionist ways to like inhabit like, Gollum.
yes,
It's so
yes, I have,
crazy. Yeah.
and rightfully deserved because there's not a lot of people who have the respect for the craft like that gentleman. And and man, I really wish I could offer everybody. I wish I could offer everybody a turning, an on and off switch to being in the moment because that's just the entry. That's just the entry level ticket. That's it. That's just the beginning. Once you learn how to be in the moment, that's just the fucking tip of the spear, man. Once you get to add on all of the other layers and enjoy each other's company and start understanding what the material is about and what the director wants and what the writer's thinking and what the other actors are coming up with, you have a fucking scene. It's not just a fucking I don't know what you want to call it, a fucking people doing make believe, kindergartners playing with Legos thinking like, "Oh, I'm flying a fucking plane out here." This is a fucking scene out here. Make it happen, man. Make it real. Give the audience a genuine, true performance. And that's all I want to do with my life.
Okay, so but you're not just an actor anymore. Like you're also writing, and and in many ways you're like directing the entire every voice line in this thing. It's not just it's not just you. It's Kat, and there's also all of the boss and characters and different people that you interact with throughout the game, right? Like how do you? I know you say like anything to do with acting, like just you don't even consider it work, but like I'm so interested in where does your creativity come from? Because
It
you're
really
able to do
comes
so many
from
things.
it comes from repetition, like a lot of things. I've been writing my own movie uh, through a free software called Celtics, which is really great for anybody that wants to write and just start
That's what we
practicing and
use
start understanding
because you
how to
introduced me
begin.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually have Final Draft. Final Draft is something that I've been using for the past, I want to say, 3 months.
Hmm.
But for Celtics, I've been using Celtics as a free software for my movie since I was 18. I'm 27 years old now. So what is that, like a good 9 years of experience? Um, and my movie that my feature film that I've been creating for myself, I've been working on that for 9 years. It's a repetition. It is something that I sit down and I think like, damn, like
Yeah.
I know that I don't like this part of the movie. You know, there's going to be nights where I sit there and sometimes there's a spark, man. And there's a spark and there's all of a sudden there's 30 pages, 10 hours later. And I'm like, how the fuck did that even come out of me? And I don't know. But the thing is that I don't feel like it's a chore. It's not a job. It's a true passion. And I'm so fucking lucky. And I'm also cursed that this is what I love. This is what I love to do. So everything having to do with storytelling is something that I'm enthusiastic and energized and passionate about. It is me. It is everything about me, and I'm confident that that's just who I am, and writing happens to be a part of that, and even podcasting. Like I had to teach myself how to do voice acting and how to do sound and video editing, and it's not easy, man. Anybody that wants to jump into this shit, it takes time. You're gonna have some fuck ups. You're gonna have some podcasts where it doesn't even work. You're gonna be sitting there like, oh my god, I spent 3 hours and I didn't get the audio, and now I'm a fucking idiot, and I'm gonna say sorry
I
to the
can tell
guy
you
that I just podcasted with.
some serious horror stories, if you're interested. But I've been doing this podcast game for quite a while. I feel like I've seen a lot of different situations that can go awry. And usually, like when I talk to people, because sometimes I'll do like consultations with people who want to get into podcasting, and you know, the initial question is always, oh, so how do I do it? And I'm like, okay, meet me. We'll spend like an hour, 2 hours, and I'll give you the rundown, just this very simple run through of what this means and how you're going to distribute it and how you're going to edit it. Everything I could do that. I could write an article easily on this. 95% of the time that I've done any consultation when it comes to podcasting, people will sooner offer me money to do it for them than actually want to put in the work to produce and distribute a podcast. Like across the board. And honestly, when I started in the Keep, I felt the same way. I had a State of Quake doing the editing and distribution for it, just out of the kindness of their hearts. And I was just so hungry to have complete control over what I was doing. And it's not like they did anything wrong. They did a perfectly consummate job. It's just that, I wanted it to be all mine. And I wanted it to be like, it was like embarrassing, the fact that I didn't know how to use Audacity, like that, the audacity of me to like act like I'm some kind of podcaster and I don't even know how to edit my own shit. So like 7 or 8 episodes in, bro, I just took over completely. I sat down long hours, learned video, or not really video. I do know some video editing, but specifically the audio editing. I just decided I was going to be good at that. And then I became pretty damn good at it, I think, at least within my wheelhouse. Vocal audio like this, where it's just two people talking, is very low on the totem pole of difficulty in editing compared to something like what Ben does.
I understand. Yeah.
but you're one of the few people I know who's like that, where you'll just like you you'll see a challenge not as like a barrier of entry, but as more like a rite of passage. You know, instead of seeing this difficult skill you have to learn in order to attain your goals as like a, well, I guess I'm not doing that. You're the kind of person who will much sooner just dive in full force and then come out knowing basically every aspect of what it is that you do. So I wanted to ask, because of that, what's the difference in mindset for you? Because often, you know, you're most of the time you're actor Chris, where you're auditioning for shit that you probably don't even really care about. You know, you're just trying to get a part or whatever. To being the casting director on something where you're like listening to other people go through the same process that you go through, and then kind of making those hard like judgments of like, this is right, this is wrong.
I think one of the things that I noticed about myself as soon as I got into the casting director slot
Mm-hmm.
is that casting is, it's always seen as kind of like an evil, you know, like they're the ones that are choosing. You have to be chosen for this role, and you know, actors are always fighting tooth and nail for a role. You know, we need these roles to be able to say like, hey, I've done something, you know. And for me personally, I love to see an actor that at least tries to be professional, that at least tries to bring to the table any kind of background that they have. I don't know all the time what it's going to be. Some actors are not really actors, you know, and that's okay. Um, some actors are dancers, or they're painters, or they're makeup artists, or there's somebody that just genuinely had an interest of being creative and wanted to expand their creativity in some other way. I think for me, as a casting director, the number one thing that I respect is somebody that has all of the things that an actor should have when they're auditioning for a role. So let's say one of the first things you need, everybody that's an actor is going to tell you the first thing you need is a headshot. You need a picture of yourself that is clear, it's presentable, it shows who you really look like, it shows the kind of person that you would like to portray, blah, blah, blah. Not everybody's going to have a great headshot. Some people just have pictures of them, you know, in their bedroom or their kitchen, and it's just a headshot from torso to head or from shoulder to head, you know, something like that. Doesn't matter. Next thing you need is a resume. You need to let us know, hey, you know, how dedicated have you been to this craft? It's just like going into a job resume. You know, you want to work at the Toyota car plant, you know, how much experience do you have working with machinery? Well, I want to know as an actor, you know, uh, how many school plays have you been in? How many commercials have you been in? How many years have you been in training? What's your background on anything? And it could be dancing, it could be sculpting. I don't fucking know. Maybe you're a great guitar player, but I want to know, you know, what you're up to. So a resume is really important. And then number 3, in your audition, I need to know that you can give us versatility. You can give us your perspective on what this character should be. And then when I give you the script, that you have these needs and wants and desires, and you have this idea of what this character could be. And you'll notice in some of these auditions that we have is that some of these auditions are not good simply off the bat, that they are sounding plain Jane. They don't offer you anything. They didn't give you a certain question in your mind of like, oh my God, but what happens next, you know? And that's what the audience wants. They want to know what's going to happen next. They don't want to already have in their head of like what's going to happen. And the actors that do shine through, those are the ones that do their homework. They sit down and they think, what about this kind of way? If I wanted to make the character, you know, walk in and make Falco sad, or I wanted to make Falco giggly, or I wanted to make Falco insecure, you would walk in as the character and say it in a certain way that would affect this person, and casting is difficult because there's going to be that really, really tight group of people that are like, it'll be like 3 or 4 people down to the wire. Like, who's the right guy? Who's the right girl for this role? And in the end, on that second audition, I mean, it sucks. You got to be chosen. Acting is not easy. And I don't have any sympathy for the ones that don't put in enough effort, because I've been in that seat for so long. But if you're there with the intention of giving us as much versatility and as much different options, and really putting your input about the character, and you care, it shines through, and your professionalism will get you to the places you want to go.
There's really there's nothing more than a letdown to me than like when you have to work on something with someone who clearly does not give a shit about the end result. Like, they're just, there's a difference between working someone where it's like, this is just my job, and when they're like as you said, passionate about it, and like they actually do care about the product that comes out of their labor. And that's actually quite rare. Like, most people are just looking for a job at the end of the day. And it's not like Stellar Valkyrie is going to make anyone a fucking millionaire necessarily either. It's just, we're looking for people who are interested in opportunity and being part of something interesting and cool. Because as much as I love this game, and I know a lot of the people in our community will also love this type of game, we're not going to make Elden Ring money off of Stellar Valkyrie. That's just, it's ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's just like here because it's like it's a passion and an opportunity, and I love working with highly motivated individuals like this.
Yeah, man, and being this way, it's going to be hard if you want to be an actor and you want to be passionate and motivated and all about it. It's a tough path, man. I'm going to tell you that right now. It is a classic. It's a classic starving artist path. And be ready to be hungry. Be ready to not have money to pay your fucking bills. Be ready to sacrifice some things that you didn't want to sacrifice. And, people aren't going to like you for whatever fucking reason. I don't give a fuck. But if you like it and this is your life, it's not going to be easy. Just, you'll know it. If it's for you, it's for you. You'll know it.
It's pretty deep, man. I feel like you go pretty hard. You go sometimes a little too hard. Sometimes I wish you just like I wish that you could relax. Sometimes, but it's like you're so excited and so passionate about everything that you want to, that you're working on. It honestly, sometimes I feel like you end up in weird situations with other people because you genuinely are only interested in just like having experiences that are going to better you and making you what you intend to be in the future. Whereas they'll see it as like this sort of insane behavior. And I know because I've been on the other side of that, where it's just like, why is this guy so obsessed with dancing 5 nights a week? Or why is this guy so obsessed with, whatever the fuck, and you're also like it's almost, I'm not saying you're one dimensional, but like there's a you when people want to talk about other subjects, and there's a you when people want to talk about acting.
Oh yeah, I know. You'd really have to tell me, like, you'd have to pull me aside and say, like, Chris, calm down. Like, you gotta change.
Yeah.
You really have to pull me aside and say that, because I won't shut up. I'll go and go and go until the sun comes up.
Yeah. We're like an hour and 43 minutes in. Do you want to take a little break? You want to call it here? What do you want to do?
I think calling it here is just fine.
Yeah, I feel like this is good. Just to kind of summarize everything up right now. Stellar Valkyrie is actually, we're on like a little bit of like a semi-development hiatus. So things are still being done, but the crux of the thing is that Chris and I have to hire a new voice actress to play Kat. And so until we get that and like a few more voice lines done, there's really just like, there's nothing more we can do. We're very, very, very close to putting our demo together for internal testing before, we have anything to show to the public. But I'm so excited right now about not just Stellar Valkyrie, but also, Call of Ragnar's demo is out right now. We're getting so much like awesome feedback and interest from people that I honestly thought would not be interested in this stuff. But yeah, I'm honored to work on a team with people like you, Chris. You're definitely one of my favorite individuals in both personal and professional life.
I feel the same way, man. I'm so happy I get to be a part of a team that really cares about making a good game.
So yeah, let's call it here, but yeah, let's do this again. Yeah, this is really fun.